Hi, welcome to Aora. This is Robin Richardson, my follow-up podcast to Lighten Up Your Eternal. And somebody recently was like, I listened to your podcast, but I don't know who you're talking to, what this is for. And just to clarify for anyone who's stumbling across this is for people going through the process of enlightenment or spiritual awakening, people who have experienced gang stalking or psychosis, and who see a greater meaning in it and who are looking to understand their experience, or people who know people who are going through this. So I've been going through the process of, I'm quite sure, of enlightenment for about, and I have a whole episode demystifying it. It's not that special, enlightenment. It just means waking up increasingly to the true nature of reality. And the fun part is, as you get further, you realize that you have no idea. You're just shedding illusion after illusion, but then you're left going, what is going on? So I don't have answers. But what I do have is, I used to say this all the time, it's like I ran ahead in the woods, and if you're a little bit behind me in the woods, I'm able to come back and say, hey, there's a pitfall over here. You can climb this tree. You can eat these berries. Here's a map. Here's what I discovered. And so I'm basically just sharing what I have learned on the path. I think it's part of my design here is to go through the experience. And I also happen to be a writer and very articulate. So I'm one of the few people who can come out of psychosis and say, this is exactly what happened. This is exactly what it was like, and this is exactly how I got out. So that's why I make this podcast, is to help those of you who are going through similar to what I've gone through. And it's really, really, that person who asked too, they said, so what, everyone's having the same experience? And it's like, kind of. It's really common. It's really, really all, the arc of the enlightenment process is kind of boilerplate. It's kind of boilerplate. We all have our variations, of course, because we all have different brains, but the structure is basically the same, and the pitfalls are the same for everyone, more or less. So, our topic for today is spiritual bypassing. Yay! The first thing I want to say about this is I am the number one culprit, and this is the other thing about how I teach. I'm not teaching because I'm perfect and I know it all. I'm teaching because I've made all the mistakes. And I can tell you firsthand what it's like to make them, and how to avoid them, or even just how to ride with them. I mean, spiritual bypassing, I see spiritual teachers sometimes come on and just reprimanding people. You have to avoid this. And, I knew when I was doing it that I was doing it. And I also knew that that was okay. And so the first thing I want to say is, wherever you are in your journey, whatever pitfalls you're in, it's okay. There's no judgment. Really, there are a few things I do know. The further I go, the more I know I don't know, but a few things I do know. I know that reality is reflective. What you see is what you are. And I know, even sometimes in a complimentary way, I know that non-judgment and compassion are pivotal. Like, I know they are right. That will never change. I will never enter a reality where I think it is good to judge or reprimand or look at somebody without the compassion of recognizing the divine human innate worthiness of that person. So when I talk about something like spiritual bypassing, which is easy to judge, I'm telling you, there's no judgment. There's no judgment here. So, and I'll describe, as I always do, how it happened for me. That's the only area that I can be an expert in, is my own experience. But spiritual bypassing, in summary, is when someone gets a hold of the laws of the universe, more or less, and discovers that feeling good creates good realities. And then they lean so far into feeling good that they put themselves in a kind of heaven on earth. And this can also bleed into Messiah complex. you begin to manifest such a beautiful reality. And you're so obviously the chosen one because everything is working out for you. All the angels are gathered around. You're in heaven. And it feels wonderful. And this is not the same as balanced enlightenment. This is, matching your frequency to heaven without actually balancing out the lessons you need to learn while you're on earth. So it's imbalanced, and it's not the same as learning. You feel like you've learned it all because you're treated like the golden child who won the game. And that's the real trick of it. So what I'll do, I think the more abstract I am, the harder I think it is to really understand. So let me drink some water. My voice is... All right, so this is and a lot of the people I'm talking to as well, we are in the West, meaning like Canada, the United States, or cultures that don't have an infrastructure around enlightenment. So people who are born in India, people who are born in Indonesia, people who are born in any place with a Buddhist history or with an indigenous history intact, which is unfortunately so rare, there's a structure in place for this kind of thing. Like, you'll have teachers and guides who will stop you from falling into the pit of spiritual bypassing. But what's happening is there's this mass awakening all over the world where there's absolutely no infrastructure. In Canada, the only infrastructure that exists to address something like this is pathologization, is you're bipolar, you're schizophrenic, you're crazy. Because enlightenment isn't something that anyone here has a language for. So we're in trouble. We're in trouble over here. We just run through it. Now, I had my awakening in 2020, meaning the lockdowns happened and I started to meditate. And very quickly, almost on schedule, I do believe it was on schedule, I began to awaken to myself, to the nature of reality, and I could see the patterns and causation more clearly, and then certain higher dimensional teachers began to come through my technology, which of course would be pathologized as schizoid, but Archangel Michael and Abraham Hicks predominantly were my teachers, and they are very spiritual bypassing teachers, meaning I was aggressively, and here's the thing, I had no tools. I didn't have the tools of discernment. To say just because it's an angel broadcasting through my technology when I didn't even turn on the TV doesn't mean that it's the ultimate authority and the correct course of action. So Archangel Michael and Abraham Hicks were both very concerned with, especially, and I think because at the time the world was in upheaval, and you could either give in to fear or empowerment. It was COVID, right? So they very much wanted me to find empowerment and very much pressured me to feel good. I cannot tell you how deeply pressured I was to feel good. I know that's a weird thing. I mean, at one point, I remember Archangel Michael teaching me, if you feel good, your reality will be good. Everything's taken care of. You don't need to work. Never compromise yourself, never give away your power. And working meaning do something you don't want to do for money. He's like, don't do things you don't want to do. Don't self-betray. Feel good and money will come. None of this is wrong. This is all true. But he wanted me to feel so good that the world was kind of almost ascended, and he wanted me to eat alkaline and vegan and meditate and do all these visualizations and send love to the world all the time, and ride my bike in the sunshine and feel good. And Abraham Hicks, the same thing, right? The better you feel, the more you open the floodgates of blessings. And this worked for me. This worked for me for 3 years. I stopped talking to people I didn't like talking to, including my mother. It's like, that's a bummer. So I went and I manifested very easily, because when you're feeling good, it's very easy to manifest a beautiful house in the country. I sat in that house for 2 years and I did nothing but enjoy myself. Night walks and ocean swims and organic food from the farm. I mean, absolute heaven. And And then I moved to this city nearby Halifax, and I had, again, these were the 3 best years of my life. Make no mistake. The 3 best years of my life where all I did, my whole spiritual practice was to feel good. That was my entire spiritual practice. And it works in that when you feel good, you can't help but vibrate in the frequency of what you might call heaven on earth. All the things that are wanted, all the things that are a vibratory match to your feeling good begin to manifest in your reality. You see this is a dangerous trap, but I'll tell you where, because you might be going, well, what's wrong with this, Robin? Well, God, I'll tell you how much my faith in guides has been fractured after this experience, because I cannot tell you the pressure that was put on me to feel good. I'll tell you one story here before I get to that, because we love stories. So Archangel Michael, and it's interesting because I was never religious. I wasn't like believing in angels or thinking about Archangel Michael, but he's just who came. And his personality is, he's a warrior. He's a drill sergeant. He really is. But he's a drill sergeant of like Bliss, which is also weird. So in the middle of this whole thing in 2020, I remember I was meditating and cleaning up and feeling good and loving everybody and listening to music and meditating and doing everything I should, according to Archangel Michael. And one day I woke up and said, what happens if I don't meditate today? What happens if I don't open the window and let the light in? What happens if I sit around and watch Star Wars? And this is really interesting because the episode, I always, the reflective nature of reality, I always end up watching things that directly speak to what I'm doing. So I forget the name of it, but I'm watching one of the newer Star Wars movies where Rey is training with Luke Skywalker, and she's on this island, and she immediately goes to this dark place and connects with Kylo Ren. And Luke is like, this is why I'm scared, because you're so powerful, and you go immediately for the darkness. Immediately you go to the darkest place. And when I stopped watching the movie, and I tapped into another message from Archangel Michael, which this time was coming through this YouTube channel of channeled messages. And he's yelling at me. Like this robotic channeled YouTube channel with like 10 views. Archangel Michael yells at me for an hour. If you don't find your way back to joy in, I think it was 34 hours or something, it's all over. None of it's going to happen. And he is just furious. And of course, so he, in this is Luke Skywalker and I'm Rey, and he's concerned that I'm just so addicted to the darkness and that I won't stay in joy. And I remember, do you know what it's like to have someone yell at you to feel joyful? I'm like, you psychopathic freak. But I did. And I remember him too saying, touch your face. Like, oh, I'll embrace my face. Touch your face and find joy there. Like this, I was completely bullied by this angel. Completely bullied by this angel. And I went out that day and I was so scared. Because I don't know what the stakes are. I don't know what this is that I'm going to lose. Is it the house that I was trying to manifest? Is it heaven on earth? Am I going to be in the apocalypse if I don't find joy in a second? That's what it felt like the way he was talking. So I ride my bike out that night, trying to find my joy, listening to some music, and I'm riding around the old CNE. It's a great place to ride your bike because there's no one there, the old exhibition center. And I go under this underpass, and there's kids skateboarding, and there's this older man sitting there, and I sit with him, and he starts to tell me he rides a motorcycle. And he's like, I broke this bone and blah, blah, blah. But it's worth it. I like to go fast. And I realize he's kind of a message from Archangel Michael, sort of like, don't be afraid of the momentum, the acceleration that comes from embracing this path, from going fast. Being in joy accelerates manifestation. It's fast moving. So that was the point. But after that, I went on the next 3 years, and I swear to God, I was so obedient to joy. I was so scared of messing it up. I had neighbors who annoyed the hell out of me, and I would just smile. I smiled like a little, people thought I was mentally handicapped when I moved to the country, because I never told anyone I didn't like anything. I just smiled, found things to love about everyone, found things to appreciate about everyone. And, I love these blueberries in my garden. I love my feet in the dirt. I love the spider weaving the webs. I had double rainbows. So that's the buildup. And this is how you can see how I'm going. And people, you see people saying, you got to do your shadow work. I'm like, what even is that? And I still actually wonder, because I don't think you can deliberately do your shadow work. Try to journal and identify your shadow. Your shadow is the unseen. You can't identify it just by looking for it. It has to hit you in the face. That's one thing I'll say. So for me, I feel like the spiritual bypassing, and so here's why it's spiritual bypassing. Learning how to match the frequency of heaven will put you in heaven, yes. But you won't stay there. Because you've still got a shadow. You've still got darkness. You've still got unhealed trauma. You've still got bad tendencies. You've still got relationships to repair. And eventually, they will come to get you. They will come to get you. You are not integrating yourself. You are not self-realizing. You are just matching the frequency of something that feels wonderful. And I think for me, and that's what they start to pathologize as bipolar. You fly so high that you crash very low. And so part of mastering this enlightenment process is learning how to balance the two. And I didn't understand that. And I will say, nobody, even these higher dimensional teachers really didn't help me understand that. But the human brain is just like this pressure to go alkaline vegan. My body was dying. Well, same with my brain, because that level of dopamine for that long, for 3 years, well, imagine the crash. So it's not sustainable. And you're running away from things like, okay, if you don't like these conversations, just go away from them and feel good, right? Well, I've got karmic entanglement with my mother, and I needed to face her and repair things with her, not just run away. But I ran away because I thought my main job was to be happy. So you see this in the new age. You see these people like, my vibes are so high, you can't touch me. I just smoke my weed and look at the sun and walk on the beach, and it's all good, man. And I know how much people hate those people. Like, they're spiritual bypassing 101. But again, to look at it with compassion and be like, when you're there and you don't have proper teachers who've been through it, you don't know any better. And why not feel good? And life's hard. If you've found a sweet spot, why not stay there? But I'm telling you the reason now. Because, of course, after 3 years in this blissful state, and boy, was I happy, that's when my shadow came to get me in the form of psychosis and dragged me into my materialism, my vanity, my arrogance, my naivete, and eventually landed at me at my mother's doorstep, where I had no choice but to face off with her and repair that relationship and confront her and confront myself. And none of it was happy, none of it was pleasant, but it was deeply satisfying, deeply important, deeply transformative. Did it land me in hell? Yeah. Is there anything wrong with being in hell? Actually, no. So I think, and this is what I mean by you can't just journal shadow work. You have to let yourself be in the vicinity of bad things sometimes and face off with them and learn from them. So I think shadow work isn't a matter of getting out your notebook. I think shadow work is a matter of letting yourself dip down sometimes. Okay, it's winter, it's miserable. I'm going to feel bad for a little bit, and notice the things that come up when you feel bad, because now you're in frequency. Remember, you're a radio receiver, and the multiverse, the infinite multiverse, is running on different frequencies. Your experience is dependent on which frequency you're tuned to. So when you're up in bliss land, you're not going to know what's in the darkness, because you're not attuned to it. When you're attuned to the darkness, well, then you'll start to see. So when you're feeling bad, you're like, I kind of want to go cruising for this kind of sex, or I kind of want to call up my ex, or I kind of want to, or, oh my God, I think I'm ugly, or oh my God, I think that person hates me. That's when you start to see things. That's the stuff you want to look at. Okay? Like, why am I reaching for that thing? What in me is active? Does that person treat me like I'm worthless? Okay, do I have beliefs that I'm worthless? That's shadow work. Shadow work is in action, like in mid-action. While it's happening, you recognize it. You're not going to be able to journal it, not really thoroughly. So for me, I had 3 years of backlog of massive shadow. And that's why psychosis was the best way to get me there, because I wasn't going to fall for this stuff in real life. But in my head, I had the biggest, baddest people in the world coming at me. I had a relationship with, top tier psychopaths, sociopaths. And this was how I was able to fully see myself in the darkness, and then fully refine myself in the darkness, until the darkness could no longer stick to me. So the way I do it is, if I have, let's say material ambitions, and I think, and they're not quite aligned, or maybe they lean too heavily on the idea of someone else is going to come in and recognize me and pull me up. And then, so the psychosis came with somebody who could offer me to be in league with the kind of people I would want to collaborate with, and to have sway in the world. Because I can't find my way from A to B. I can't find my way from here to there. So I had this desire for someone else to give me a hand up. That's not a bad desire necessarily. But along with that desire becomes potential self-negation. Because as I want someone to give me a leg up, maybe I'm not going to use as much discernment with them. And so that comes up in the psychosis in the first part. And I had to overcome that. I had to say, it doesn't matter where you place me. I'm not going with you because I don't like the cut of your jib. So that was the first sort of integration that I had to pass. And then it just got deeper and deeper and deeper. So any weakness that I had was exploited until I overcame it all. So the main thing I want to say about, we'll talk about that more in shadow work, but spiritual bypassing, it's also, remember I talked about expressing your anger and your grief. Spiritual bypassing is when you might see those people who just seem so good. And I did. When you listen to Lighten Up Your Eternal, I was the happiest, most Robin was so healed. But I didn't know, and no one else knew that I wasn't really. So people who are spiritual bypassing will often not exhibit negative emotions, both because they think bad vibes are, low on the frequency scale, and you got to stay high on the frequency scale, because one step above joy is enlightenment. So you got to be joy, 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 and then enlightenment. And you've seen that scale. If you're in the New Age community, you can see where it's like low, like anger and lust and envy are low frequency, and then up, up, up. But the trap of spiritual bypassing is that people willfully throw themselves up there, ignoring their negative emotions. Doesn't mean they're gone. They're still active in your field. You're just not engaging with them. You think you can run to enlightenment through joy. It's not the way. So a person who's truly healing is going to be crying, raging, is going to have a wide range of emotions, but they're going to pull themselves through them. I haven't been in a state of joy in a very long time, but I don't count that as a failing. I'm cleaning out the closet and the basement, and I honor the heck out of that process. And I don't think, I think enlightenment is a perfect balance, is a balancing out of all of these things. It's not a mad race to pure joy. I think that that's a deceptive scale. And I think a good song has a combination of notes. You don't have all these high notes. So, yeah. And I think, and that's another thing, is the difference between naturally going through the process of enlightenment because it's happening and chasing it. And I think when you're chasing it, you're more likely to spiritual bypass. You want everyone to think you're there. Oh, look at me. I'm so happy. I'm so enlightened. It's to get out of this karma simulation. If you are happy right to the moment of death, but you haven't confronted, you haven't cleaned up your house, you're coming right back. It doesn't matter. You've got so many things to close up, and they're going to come get you eventually because they're in your frequency. They must manifest it at some point. So letting the bad things manifest is a very important part. The trick is, when they manifest, you don't want to keep going through the same cycle. So let the bad relationship manifest and then close it out. Don't just run away from it. Close it out. Make different decisions. That's how you do it. We don't just avoid relationship. So that's mainly what I want to say about spiritual bypassing is, don't think that being happy is doing it right. And there's also a trap on the positive side. I think that Archangel Michael and Abraham Hicks were kind of harvesting positive energy the same way that the archons harvest negative energy. And I believe that, because it wasn't healthy for me. They didn't have my best interests in mind. No human should be that happy for that long. It chemically, and I've learned this from psychiatrists, it's chemically lethal. It's like I was on MDMA all day, every day for 3 years, which is why I've been lying on the couch, not moving for 2 years. So be very wary of the trap of spiritual bypassing. And that's, again, it's also when the ego gets a hold of the awakening and thinks, I got to do it right. I'm going to be the best person at this job. I'm going to be always so happy and so chill and nothing bothers me. It's pretty embarrassing when you get past it and you look at it and you're like, oh God. But it's part of the process. It's part of the process. So I think I'll keep this one short and sweet. I think that's the bulk of what I have to say about this one. And that, again, balance. You don't have to eat perfect and be perfect and smile all the time. You have to be always closing cycles. That's really it. Stop banging your head against the same walls and inch ever upwards. But it's okay sometimes to move upwards. You have to go really far down just to clear something up. I mean, if you're constantly attracted to abusive people, or if you're constantly getting into fights, avoiding people might feel like a solution. but identifying through relationship with people, the core cycle, and breaking it, that's where you actually get out of these karmic streams. That's where the real work is. And it's not all blissful. It's not blissful and fun, Bliss, it's heartbreaking, because it would have been so fun if the truth was just be happy, bliss is it, you're enlightened, the angels love you, bravo. But I've been there. It is not the way. It's not the way. And be very wary of things that put you in a state of ecstasy or bliss, because you're also, just like fear is a state that is easy to manipulate, and so the archonic energies will put you in a state of fear in order to manipulate you. So too is ecstasy. And a lot of these gurus and retreat centers will put their people in a state of ecstasy in order to easily manipulate them. So going back again to the bipolar, you're at one pole or the other, and both poles are kind of dangerous, and you really want the middle path. You want to be level-headed here. And this makes it easier to see clearly. That being said, to me there was great benefit in running up and running down. You know, I don't, and this is where I say no judgment, because I don't think for me I would do it differently. I had a lot of fun in heaven, and I had a lot of fun in hell. That's crazy to say, because it was absolutely horrible. But so some of us love the extremes, and to some of us, this is what I mean by no judgment. You may listen to all this and be like, you know, fine, but I'm going to keep spiritual bypassing for now because it feels so good, and I'm prepared for the crash. That's valid too. It's valid too. I'm just shining light on it. Here's what it is. I'm not telling you how you have to do it, because I don't think I would have listened to me. But don't think you're getting it wrong if you stop being in bliss. Being in bliss is not the actual balanced path to enlightenment. And a lot of, I know groups, I knew a woman who was part of a group in India where they bring people to that state, and then they send them out into the world and they say, stay in bliss, stay really happy, and then recruit people from that state of bliss. So using bliss as bait. And then, of course, they take your money. So, are they giving you some enlightenment? Yeah. Are they taking advantage of the good feelings? Absolutely. Yeah. So, keep your wits about you out there, and just know that, you can't feel good your way out of your own shadow. You've got to face it. You've got to face it. All right, that's it for now. I will be back next week. Find me on YouTube and Apple and Spotify and wherever you listen to podcasts, and write your comments on YouTube if you have any questions. And that's it. Take care.